Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Timbs Tech Talk with your host, AJ Timbs of Horror House Media. And today we're going to be talking about the Switch 2. And we're also going to be talking about, is AI taking over? There's a lot of crazy things that's been happening this past week, so I feel like we need to go ahead and get into that right now. Starting with the Switch 2 specifically. It's been a very crazy week as finally the new console has come out from Nintendo, and a lot of people are angry, a lot of people are upset at the new price tag of the video games. $80-$90 for a cartridge that's only a key code to get in? Well, unfortunately, it seems to be a common problem now that a lot of video games are getting extremely expensive, and my take is that I kind of unfortunately saw this one coming, given how video games have been getting expensive over the last few years. I can remember back in like 2009 when video games were only like 40, maybe $50, if that. And that was if it was like a special edition. Now it's like $90 and you barely get a comparable version of the game, let alone if you want a special edition, it's like, oh my God, spending $200. Well, that's not what we're here to discuss. We're going to discuss the console itself and the tech specs of it. So we're going to go ahead and head over to Tom's Hardware, where we're going to now discuss their conversation, their piece on the Nintendo Switch, which is titled Nintendo Switch 2 Hands-On, Bigger, Faster, and with Mouse Controls. The Switch 2 is an evolution, not a revolution, but it's got an exciting game lineup. Now, obviously, you can make purchases with links, but we're not here to discuss that. We're going to discuss the hardware in this, because the hardware I find is very fascinating, it's very interesting. So, first, let's talk about the hardware right here. The matte black finish on the Joy-Con 2 controllers on the system makes itself look incredible in first impression. The system is at 1.18 pounds, or 1 pound and 18 ounces, with the Joy-Con controllers attached. It's a bit heavier than I expected the Switch to be, but with the larger 7.9-inch display, it is worth it. And that is still lighter than the best gaming PC handheld gaming PCs on the market, like the Steam Deck OLED, which is 1 pound and 41 ounces. Well, okay, so real quick, I don't think the weight thing is really that comparable, or really, because honestly, does it really make a difference? Like, most people are usually, I've got my phone charging, but let's pretend this is my phone. This is my camera's battery, but let's pretend it's my phone. Like, people are used to carrying like maybe this much, so I really don't think that's going to make too much of a difference. Plus, the original one was like at a pound, so I don't think the weight thing's too much to worry about there. But when we come back to this article, they talk about here, there's something about the lack of color other than the callbacks to the neon red and orange around the joystick colors underneath the Joy-Cons that doesn't feel very Nintendo. Even the company's last attempt at having a sort of edge with the GameCube had an indie logo and orange options alongside black. But hey, I have the blue GameCube, so I can get past it. Sure, and there will be variants in colors eventually. And we're gonna ignore all this. The Joy-Con comes off with the press release buttons on each side. I didn't spend a ton of time disconnecting the controllers. In fact, most of the demos of the system had the system hidden away. But with one unit I briefly tried, my first impression was the click was strong. I wouldn't purposefully wiggle the controller the wrong way, but I'm definitely not worried about accidentally pulling the Joy-Cons off. So it sounds like, from what they're describing there, it definitely sounds like the system itself is seems to be pretty well comparable. I wouldn't think there would be too many issues with as far as like the remote controls popping off or potentially breaking, which is really nice, because that seems to be a problem. At least I could see that being a problem if they had designed it the way they designed it, but the way they designed it, to my knowledge, was done very well. So, hats off to Nintendo once again. But if we continue, look, those longer controllers fit better in my hands than the original ones did, but they're still thin, and I found the length to be more comfortable. Though I'm not sure many people will notice the huge difference. Again, the person who's writing the hardware review, I can understand like their point of view when it comes to that. So, like, as you can clearly read here, like the new kickstand obviously is a huge improvement to them over the original. Okay, here we go. 3, 2. So obviously the new kickstand was a huge improvement to the original one, but again, I never really played the original Switch. I never really used it because I never owned it, so I can't say for certain if it's better or not. A lot of this is just based on what I'm reading here, but what I really want to talk about is the tech specs, like the actual tech specs here. So let's go ahead and let's get into that real quick. Not only do you start gaming until you see the biggest improvement overall in the original one is the new display. While no, it is not OLED like the original one came out with later, so I can understand why some people might think it's a step down from the OLED model. But this LED screen has a bump up to the 1920 by 1080p screen with a 120 Hz revertible refresh rate, which is the exact same kind of rate that my MacBook has. Like the first 4 MacBooks that have been made with the M series chips all have 120 Hertz ProMotion, which is variable refresh rate. So I can see how, like, that, in my opinion, is a big improvement. Trust me, OLED's nice, but OLED at 720p is still 720p. That's not great looking, honestly. So I can see how it's like, it's a little bit But anyways, when we get back to it, as we get back to the article here, it also has HDR support. I think that's fantastic. Honestly, in my opinion, every kind of screen now should have HDR support or XDR support, one of the two. It should have that built-in standard. I do not care. I'm sick and tired of screens that do not have that built in, because HDR looks freaking amazing. Because the blacks are really deep, and like you can really tell it's black, and it's not just it's gray. There's like gray hovering on. No, it's actually black, and it looks beautiful. So for the dock, so here's kind of the thing that worries me a little bit here. The CPU and GPU is a custom-made NVIDIA processor, but there's nothing really explaining what the custom processor is, and I haven't really found much information about that, so I find that a little concerning, because you would think if it's supposed to be as great as they say it is, you would advertise what the name of the processor is, although NVIDIA does make really nice GPUs. If they're not catching on fire, that is, they make nice GPUs, so I can see how the CPUs could be good. It also has support for DLSS hardware and DLSS with frame generation and hardware ray tracing. That's fantastic. That's great. Ray tracing is fantastic. I love ray tracing, don't get me wrong. There's obviously HDR support. We already talked about the screen here. The storage. Now, this is something that kind of pisses me off a little bit here. It's 256 gigs. My MacBook right now that I have, if you were just to buy it without the 1 terabyte storage upgrade, you would get half a terabyte. And my thing about this is that if laptops are coming standard with half terabytes, why are these gaming consoles coming with like half or a quarter of what those, like the original Switch had only 32 gigabytes of storage? Now, like this only has 256. This has expandable express cards and take it up to 2 terabytes, but you can't replace the storage inside the system. And to me, that is a major flaw in it. And here's why I say that's a major flaw in the system itself. Is because now, if for whatever reason the SSD fails, you can't replace it. Now, yes, I know I'm using a MacBook, and we all know the story about Apple and repairability. That we've heard that a million times now. I'm not going to get into that. But the thing about the whole thing is I honestly would have loved to have seen it had replaceable storage then. At least wise, even if it went the Apple route, at least wise with like the custom-made SSDs. If they did that, where you could buy these custom-made SSDs that would upgrade the storage or replace what you have, then instead of having to replace the entire freaking motherboard and everything to repair it, at least from my understanding here, it doesn't look like it's repairable or user repairable. I didn't see anywhere where it's user repairable. Maybe it's in this article, but I don't see it. But if we come back here, it's got Wi-Fi 6. That's great. Although Wi-Fi 7 is starting to become standard now, not too many devices really take advantage of Wi-Fi 6 as it is now, let alone Wi-Fi 7. So I don't see any reason to have Wi-Fi 7 in it. So we're good there. Bluetooth, it doesn't say what kind of Bluetooth though. That kind of worries me a little bit though. I hope it's 5.4 or at least 5.4, at least 5.1, at least that, at least. Although that would be putting it way behind. It's probably got Wi-Fi 5.4, hopefully. You also get wired Ethernet with the dock. That's pretty cool. The speakers, I'm sure they probably took from Apple's speakers like they have on the MacBooks. So I'm sure the sound is really good. I'm curious, and this is something I would love to check out, would be the microphone that with the noise cancellation built in. I would love to take that for a spin, see how it is. The ports on the console is, well, obviously kind of piss poor in my opinion. You get 2 Type-Cs. You get a 3.5 headphone jack. I guess that's kind of nice. And then again, the Steam Deck had piss poor ducts. Oh geez, had piss poor ports on it anyhow. So has a game slot in it, obviously for the cartridges, and then the micro SSD or SD Express card slot. The ports on the dock, you get also 2. Now, this is the other thing that kind of pissed me off, is that the Type-Cs are the 3.0, if I'm not mistaken, and you're getting USB 2.0 Type-A's. And that was the other thing when I was reading, kind of skimming through this, that pissed me off, was seeing that, because 3.0 has been out, like 3.2 has been out for a while now, and you're telling me you couldn't have installed that into the dock? Wow. You get HDMI, that's nice. Ethernet jack. And sorry, these websites with the freaking having to have 500 ads and everything. I gotta get an ad block on it sometime. But anyhow, to get back to it, the battery life has 2 to 6.5 hours that Nintendo roughly estimates. And then the price tag, and this is kind of the thing that's been pissing people off, is that it's $450 for just the console, but if you want the Mario Kart World Bundle, you're paying $500 for this. You're paying $500 for this, and ultimately, you kind of get back to all of it. And honestly, I'm not quite sure if it's really worth that money for the Mario Kart game itself. I feel like now, but see, there's the thing about that, is like you're getting a discount if you look at it, because you're only paying $50 for that game when you otherwise would be paying $80 for that game. So if you really love Mario Kart, then the bundle makes sense. But honestly, overall, and I know it also has the mouse ability, and that's kind of cool and all. But like my biggest thing is that how much RAM does this system have? How powerful is the GPU and the CPU in it? Because I'm like, you can have like you can say it's made by NVIDIA all day long and blah 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 blah, but it doesn't mean that it's great. And that's the kind of thing that worries me about the whole system. is that it's going to be underpowered. Because, again, if we go back to the article and we scroll down here to the resolutions, it states that, well, they state that the area where it feels like it's getting more enthusiast territory is the various opera resolution options and quality modes. This occurred to a degree on the original Switch with a 720p display. Like, but you see, far more capable. This trailer also see on the Xbox X and PlayStation 5, but no one really cares about that. You can put 4K at 60 frames a second. And it goes up to 120 hertz and whatnot. You can get up to 120 frames a second at 1080p. Now that's really good, handheld or docked. And 1440p at 120 frames a second, that's really good. But I really wish the 4K could do more than 60 frames a second. That's my biggest thing about this, that I wish it could have done more, was if the 4K could get up to 120 frames a second. I really think that would have been just absolutely bonkers crazy, and that would totally make this system a complete competitor to, again, the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. Totally. And now, Pro Motion Controller. Let's see, but here's the other thing I think that's kind of weird, is I want to talk about real quick, is the camera as well. Oh, the new game chat feature. Real quick, I'm just going to say the game chat before we talk about the camera and really talk about the camera. Honestly, the new game chat feature looks like a ripoff of Discord. It looks like they literally just copied what Discord was doing. That's kind of what it feels like to me, was that it's Discord but from Nintendo. It's possible they may be partnering with Discord to do it that way. It is possible. Who knows? But to get back to it, the camera is what I really want to talk about. And right here in the article, it says the Nintendo camera will be a more diverse piece of technology. Is intended to be used in game chat, but can also be used to put your face in games like Mario Party Jamboree, the Switch 2 edition, plus Jamboree TV, which put me and other players in the game to get roasted by Bowser if we didn't please him by winning minigames. The green screen effect was rough, though, with lots of jagged lines. You won't necessarily have to buy Nintendo's camera, though, as Nintendo's own website says you can use a compatible USB-C camera. I guess I'll keep my Logitech Stream camera on just in case. Well, I like how he advertises the camera, the camera he likes. But to get back to that, honestly, I don't really know. I really don't know about this camera thing. It's kind of weird. Like the biggest thing, like he talks about, he says that it was not good, but I don't really know, honestly, one way or the other. And like I said, seeing the technology and everything for it and going over it, like, again, we don't know how much RAM it is. It's got low storage. It's got a good screen, don't get me wrong, and you can do 4K on it. That's really freaking cool. But 4K at 60 frames a second. Again, 60 frames a second. I really wish it could have been able to do 120 frames a second. I feel like that would have made the Nintendo Switch 2 really more sellable. And obviously the biggest problem that people have with it is the game prices. Like, for example, we're going to look it up right now, like game prices from the Nintendo Switch 2. If we punch in game prices, right? We're going to see, right here, according to like IGN, for example, once we go to our full screen here, because experts largely conclude the tariffs may have played a role, with Matt saying suggesting that the higher game prices was a bit future-proofing on Nintendo's part. See, and that's what I'm seeing here, is that a lot of people are saying that tariffs and what U.S. politics and everything is causing the games to be more expensive. I don't think it's just tariffs, because it isn't just the United States where it's extremely horrendously expensive. Canada is facing huge problems with the games costing upwards of $120 Canadian for them for just one game, and that's a physical cartridge. And I couldn't imagine what the digital download's like. So I really think it also has to do with the fact that gaming prices have just been skyrocketing because companies keep pushing to make more and more and more and more money. How can we make more money without having to spend a ton of money into the product that we made? That's pretty much what I'm seeing here and what a lot of people are seeing here. I don't think it's just tariffs that are causing it. But that's enough for this first segment. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Are you excited for the Nintendo Switch 2 and for the games that are coming out? Are you not excited? Are you going to get one? Are you not going to get one? How do you feel about the camera and the game chat? Let me know in the comment section. And before we talk about AI potentially taking over, I got some few words from our sponsor, me. So as you can see, I've clearly got t-shirts. This is an awesome, fantastic t-shirts, 100% cotton. It is super comfortable. And you might be wondering, well, where can I get one of these? Well, you can get one of these by going to streamlabs.com/themerciful-doctor/merch. And here you can get yourself, like I said, one of these very lovely t-shirts. Or you can get yourself an epic or trash the mug. You can get yourself Timbs drumming hoodie, and there's more stuff on the way too. There's more stuff coming soon, so make sure you guys check out the store, get yourself one of these, and be the cock of the block of your town. Now back to the video. Well, I hate to cut in when the video is supposed to have already been uploaded, because it is 6:20 right now as I'm recording, and this video should have already been live. But I had some breaking news, or I should say some breaking news happened. Nintendo is now delaying their pre-buying or pre-ordering of their products due to the tariffs that President Trump has now just introduced. So instead of doing the AI like I was going to discuss in the second half of this video, that will be delayed to next week. So make sure you subscribe for next week's coverage of AI, because there's a lot I want to say about AI in general anyhow, and there's more to discuss than just that video. But right now, we're going to cut to a video that was posted by Smash JT right here, and we're going to kind of react to it, and I'm going to give my thoughts and opinions about it. So here we go.
Welcome back, guys.
We are in Phoenix, Arizona for
Game on Expo.
And we got sidetracked because some breaking news with the
Nintendo Switch 2.
And what's going on with the Nintendo Switch 2, Austin?
Delays for pre-orders due to Trump traffics.
Close enough. Nintendo has
Close
announced Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders due to tariffs coming from U.S. President Donald Trump. So I guess all those previous reports that the price hike was up due to tariffs from Trump are being debunked now, because the price that was set by Nintendo for the $450 base model and $500 with Mario Kart are going to be making a gigantic leap if Nintendo finds that they need to raise the price in order to make a profit. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. And if you thought the Nintendo Switch 2 was expensive before, get your wallet ready for a beating. Smash JT.
So I already want to say right off the bat that is extremely terrible that is happening here. It is extremely terrible that is happening, because honestly, a lot of people were looking forward to buying the product. A lot of people, like, here's the thing, and I know that the economic strategy, at least from my research, is that he's looking to try and reboot the economy by forcing the federal government to lower the value of the dollar, redo the debts, not only for student loans, but for a lot of the different corporations that are indebted with the IRS and whatnot, in order to crash the stock market, which then would force the stock market to reboot itself. And his whole idea is that it's supposed to reboot the economy by forcing companies to, in a sense, come back to the United States to pay less taxes in the overall grand scheme. But in my opinion, that takes away from gamers. It takes away from a lot of us enthusiasts. Not just gamers, but I can see how it would affect tech enthusiasts like me, who's also a musician as well. Because products like these, while these are made in the United States, I don't know if they, at least I'm not sure Vic Firth, the stick manufacturer I use, sources their wood from the United States. I know quite a few of my drum companies I buy from don't source all their woods from the United States, like African mahogany, certain Scandinavian birch, and certain types of poplar. So that's very concerning to me. And like the company I'm endorsed by, Sultan Cymbals, they manufacture their cymbals in Turkey and not here in the US. So that really, honestly, in my opinion, it's bad. It's looking bad right now. And I can understand a lot of people's frustration and their fear of what could happen. Because, like, again, that's a lot of money. That is a lot of money for that. But let's continue back with the video in question.
Subscribe, give me a like, and check out SmashJT.com for the full article breaking down how Nintendo has officially delayed the US pre-orders for their highly anticipated Nintendo Switch 2 console, coming out of the House of Mario citing some pretty serious concerns over the newly announced tariffs from President
that is really
Donald
cool
Trump.
with the mouse thing.
And if you thought this was expensive before, oh boy, just you wait. The company has confirmed to CNBC that pre-orders initially set to go live on April 9th, 2025, are now going to be postponed indefinitely as Nintendo evaluates the economic impact of the new policy. In a statement given to them, Nintendo had stated, pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch 2 in the US will not start April 9th, 2025 in order to assess the potential impact of tariffs and evolving market conditions. Nintendo will update timing at a later date, and the launch date of June 5th, 2025 is unchanged.
Now, that's the only good news coming out of this so far. That's the only good news coming out of this whole thing, is that the launch date has not changed. It will not change. That's really good in my opinion. I like that. That makes it a little less worrying, a little less scary, but still, it's still bad. It's still bad in my opinion. The reason why it's still bad is because people can't really afford that right now. And as we get into this video, we're going to play a little bit more. He's going to bring up how the tariffs could cause the console to be even more expensive than the PS5 when it first launched, or the Xbox Series X when it first launched. Hell, it's getting into like iPhone Max Pro territory. But again, you'll see in a moment why I say that.
Of the mainstream press scrambles to frame this as another reason to go after Donald Trump. This latest development here, ironically, actually disproves the wave of earlier media narratives going after Donald Trump, reporting the statements circulating that the Switch 2's $450 and up to $500 price tag from the original $300 Switch 1 was going to be a direct result of Trump's influence or potential tariffs, even though it was obvious that tariffs had nothing to do with the price of the Switch 2 initially, because console prices are typically set months in advance, and these Trump tariffs were happening fairly recently. That didn't stop many outlets from running with the story, and those reports were entirely speculative at best and misleading at worst. And now we have the truth coming out where, yeah, the tariffs are going to actually be affecting this, and it's going to affect it so much that they have to delay the pre-orders to reevaluate how much they're actually going to be charging for a Nintendo Switch 2 in the United States specifically. Now that we all have the actual statement from Nintendo, we know that the pre-orders plan to proceed before Trump's announcement. In fact, Nintendo only delayed them after the tariffs were unveiled, clearly indicating stating that the price was already set and unaffected by any of prior policies from President Trump. So, in other words, the console's $450 price point was not initially being driven by Trump's tariffs, as these critics had previously claimed. Which, honestly, taking a step back, is another very good reminder to everyone of just how quickly the media ecosystem at large, even those pro-journos out there, will jump at any opportunity to pin economic or market events on Donald Trump conclusions without any kind of tangible evidence. But when the facts come out, like in this case, their narrative always falls apart. But don't worry, I'm sure they'll say, well, it's still happening. It's Donald Trump, and he's bad because Trump bad, and tariffs are making this go.
Political opinions aside, I still find issue and fault with the fact that it's going to be more expensive now more than ever to buy this product. And again, with video games, for the console already costing originally was going to be $70, $80. Now it's $70 to $90 a game. Like, how are people supposed to afford that? Again, like, I'll make it clear, I voted for Trump. Don't get me wrong there. But I didn't vote for this. I voted for economic strategies that were supposed to repair our economy, not put tariffs in to make the economy more expensive. And what people are telling me is that it's some kind of 4D chess logic that's supposed to repair the economy and reboot it, like I described earlier. But even I'm skeptical of that. So I would be understandable why people who didn't vote for him would be panicking like crazy. So, and again, I don't understand the effect, why affecting the technology aspect. Why? Wouldn't you want more technology to come in at a cheaper price? Why wouldn't you incentivize by reducing more of the taxes that it would cost to manufacture here in the U.S. instead of putting tariffs on bringing the products over? It seems illogical. But again, I'm also not a economist or an expert on the economy, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm smarter than anybody that's in office. Certain people are in office for a reason. But anyways, I want to go ahead and let's get to the part about how much the system costs, because this is where it's going to get really brutal, ladies and gentlemen. This is where it really gets brutal. Oh yeah, also that right there, that little comment about only being available for compatible games. Yeah, that really is like, what the fuck?
Because Trump bad. That's the all too familiar narrative that we've all seen before. As far as the community sentiment is concerned, scrolling
I do not care about that.
Have been hit with some of the steepest tariff hikes. 54% for China and 46% for Vietnam. Though Nintendo hasn't disclosed the current location for manufacturing the Switch 2 as of yet, the company's delay in pre-orders shows that it's taking these developments right now pretty seriously. And honestly, this is an unprecedented move in the game industry. I honestly can't recall this ever happening on such a grand scale before. IPC is the major trade group for electronics manufacturers, and they themselves have estimated that these tariffs could force console prices up by as much as 50%, which would mean a $500 console would then cost $750 USD. And while the initial $450 price tag wasn't due to Trump's tariffs, future pricing adjustments absolutely could be, depending on how Nintendo decides to respond. And this can't be a good sign, because if Nintendo is taking their pre-orders off the market and saying, we're going to kick this can down the road, I would argue it's highly likely that they come back with a higher price point. And honestly, $600 wouldn't be out of the realm of speculation at this point. And if you thought $500 was a lot, oh boy, looks like you're going to be getting even less for the value of your dollar. Nintendo fans can breathe a little easier.
So, and that creates another thing for me right there. And ultimately, that's the thing I want to discuss here, is that high price tag, that possibility that we can all breathe a sigh of relief. It's still coming out June 5th. That's what he was going to say. It's coming out June 5th. that is locked in, guaranteed. The console's going to be released by that point. So that's great. That's great. That's going to happen. That's fantastic. Glad they're not changing the date of when they're releasing the console. But the price tag, and this is the ultimate problem that we're going to run into, is will Nintendo stick with what they have, or will they increase? And if they choose to increase, which is highly likely right now, how much will they increase? Because honestly, the thing is, $750 is a lot of money for a console. Even the Steam Deck had trouble selling at that price tag. Had trouble selling at the price tag it sells now. It was like $400 or $500, maybe $600. Last time I checked, it was like $500. So that's what we run into. That is the ultimate problem, is how much will this console cost? So that's kind of where I want to end this here. You let me know in the comment section how much you think this console, the new Nintendo Switch 2, is going to cost. Do you think Nintendo's going to stick with the price tag like all of us are hoping they will? Do you think Nintendo's going to increase the price tag? And if you do, by what percentage, and how much do you think the actual total price tag, not including taxes, will cost? Well, until then, like I said, this is AJ Timbs of the Den of Timbs / Horror House Media signing out. And also, don't forget, get yourself one of these t-shirts, help support me, because these tariffs are going to be brutal. And until next time, this is Tim's Tech Talk. Have a great one, everyone.